12 spine-chilling true neighbor horror stories, revealed secrets of the cursed figure next door in the quiet suburb of Rockwood, where laughter echoed down paved streets and sunshine bathed the trimmed lawns. The Johnson family lived an idyllic existence. Kate, a hard-working nurse, dotted the community with kindness while her 10-year-old son Ben and his little sister Lucy thrived in the warmth of home. Their evenings were filled with family dinners, board games, and cozy movies until Mr. Granger moved in next door. At first, Mr. Granger seemed like any other neighbor, just another face against the backdrop of suburbia. But as soon as night blanketed Rockwood, he revealed a sinister side that suffocated the Johnsons' dreams. Strange voices slithered through the walls, thick and sinister. The flickering light from Mr. Granger's porch cast long, twisted shadows that crawled across the lawn, creeping into the corners of their thoughts. Ben and Lucy huddled together, eyes wide and hearts racing, watching through the cracked curtains as Mr. Granger performed odd rituals in his backyard. The first night, they heard a guttural chanting mixed with eerie laughter that pierced the stillness. It sent chills down their spines, making them clutch their teddy bears tighter. A feeling of dread settled in, feeling heavier and darker with each passing night. As the kids' nerves frayed, an erratic drumbeat pulsed through the night air, a sound that echoed from next door, thumping against the very fabric of their home. Day after day it built until it became a maddening crescendo, a symphony of terror that twisted tightly around their throats. "Mom, something's wrong," Lucy whispered, her small fingers trembling against her stuffed animal. Kate, balancing exhaustion from the hospital with the weight of her children's fears, tried her best to dismiss their worries. "It's just your imagination," she'd say, yet doubts clawed at her mind after the pungent scent of unfamiliar herbs wafted into her kitchen one night. She turned to their neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, asking if she'd noticed anything strange. As warm cookies baked, Mrs. Peterson's cautious voice shared conspiratorial murmurs that made Kate's blood run cold. "You wonder about the Grangers? Hold tight to your little ones. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One chilling night, everything came to a head. The children, frozen in terror, heard a scream from Mr. Granger's yard, a sound so sharp, so unholy, it pierced the air with its raw desperation. Heart-pounding, Kate rushed outside to find her children, their faces ghostly pale, staring into the darkness. The shadows shifted as Mr. Granger emerged, his form grotesque under the dim light. He was muttering words that sent a horrible flutter through Kate's stomach. Behind him loomed something unnatural, twisting and bending, its shape a horrific mockery of a human. Panic clawed at Kate as the darkness pressed in closer. She felt the chilling grip of dread tighten around her family, an undeniable urge to flee washing over her. But when she took a step back, the shadows twisted, trapping her in a web of fear. Could she save her children before it was too late? The air thickened as the echoes of the past whispered through the fence, pulling them into a legacy worse than nightmares. And as the shadows closed in, they wondered just what was hidden next door? The air turned electric with dread as Kate's heart raced wildly in her chest. Shadows twisted and churned around her, making it difficult to breathe, to think. Her instincts screamed for her to get her children away from the monstrosity that was Mr. Granger. But the very ground seemed to tremble beneath her feet, a sickening feeling that something deep within the darkness was rooting for her to stay. "Ben! Lucy!" Kate called out, her voice cracking as the night thickened around them. The kids clung to each other, wide-eyed and frozen, unable to tear their gaze from the nightmarish figure next door. Mr. Granger's eyes glinted like dull coals, revealing just enough humanity to send a cold terror shooting through her veins. As he continued his ominous chant, an awful smell, a mix of decay and burning, crept under Kate's nose. It made her stomach churn. With a fierce wave of courage, she stepped forward. "Get inside!" she shouted. But the words barely escaped her lips before a guttural sound erupted from the shadows beside Granger, creating a deep rumble that vibrated through the ground. What emerged next was a grotesque mass, an abomination of shifting limbs and fleeting faces. Their eyes were hollow and sorrowful, yet full of an unquenchable hunger. They reached toward the light, or perhaps toward her, with haunting, scrabbling fingers. A scream clawed at the inside of Kate's throat, but it caught there, stuck in the vice of fear and disbelief. "Mom!" Ben cried, his voice sharp with panic, shattering the air around them. The fabric of its chant warped, as if it were trying to pull them closer, to join the dance of madness. With every passing second, Kate felt the ground under her peel away, a sickening realization that her home, her sanctuary, had become a prison of horror. In that moment, the instinct to protect her children kicked in. "Run!" she finally yelled, pushing them backward toward the house, her hands trembling on their small shoulders. "Get inside! Now!" They stumbled back, barely processing her words as they darted toward the relative safety of their home. Kate took a quick glance at Mr. Granger, who now stood still, an eerie smile spreading across his grim face. It was a smile that promised pain, that promised sacrifice. Just as she turned to follow her children, something cold and thin curled around her ankle. Heart pounding in her ears, she glanced down to see a shadowy tendril, slick and dark, dripping with a substance that gleamed like oil but felt like dread. It pulled her, and she felt an icy hand grip her heart. "Mom!" Lucy screamed, reaching for her, but Ben dragged her back, his eyes wide with horror as they barreled into the warmth of their home, fear making them faster than the shadows creeping upon them. The door slammed shut behind them, and Kate threw herself against it, her heartbeat echoing in the suffocating silence. Just outside, she could hear Granger's voice rising, twisted laughter spilling into the air, mingling with the cries of those lost to the night. What are we going to do?" Ben gasped, clinging to his sister as Kate locked the door tight, desperation filling the dimly lit room. She could feel the weight of something terrible pressing against the wood. "We need to call for help," Kate said, her voice shaking as she tried to steady her breath, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter. But when she turned toward the phone, the lights flickered again, this time plunging them into darkness. "Mom!" Lucy cried, "What is happening?" And then, the sound of scratching claws began to resonate from the other side of the door, an unnerving melody that sent shivers across their skin. "Stay close to me!" Kate roared, heavy dread clawing at her sanity. But deep down, a nagging thought began to fester: what if there was no help coming? What if they were already too late? As the scratching intensified, the family braced themselves for whatever horror awaited them beyond their barricade. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, there was silence, a heavy, low-lidded silence that sent an even deeper chill down Kate's spine. "Mom, what if it's not done?" Ben whispered, his voice trembling. Kate's heart raced at the thought. What if this was merely the prelude to a darker play unfolding? With a deep breath, she moved towards the window to peer out, against all instincts that told her to turn away. But as she glanced outside, the backyard was suddenly empty. "Where is he?" she murmured, fear wrapping around her throat like a noose. The darkness felt thicker, swallowing everything but their panic. Just then, a low growl rumbled from the shadows outside, and through the cover of night, two blood-red eyes flared open, locking onto her. What could she do next? How would she keep her children safe when it was clear that the horror next door had only just begun? Kate's pulse thundered in her ears, each beat echoing with the cold reality that a monstrous presence lurked just beyond their safety. The yard lay stretched under the inky night, suffocating and ominous. Those red eyes burned into her, flickering like dying embers. She blinked hard, hoping when she opened her eyes again, the nightmare would relent. But the eyes remained. "Mom?" Ben's voice broke through her fog of terror. She twisted around to look at her children, terror reflected in their faces. Their fear reached into her soul, igniting a fire of determination. "We can't stay here. We need to find a way out," Kate said, forcing her voice to remain steady. They gathered their strength, still holding tight to each other, eyes darting between the front door and window. She pressed a finger to her lips, silencing any protests. Each moment felt like an eternity, weighted with uncertainty. With the lights off, she reached for the hallway, its familiar contours a faint comfort amidst the chaos. "Come on," she whispered, leading the way with careful, calculated steps. They moved as one, the darkness felt alive, swirling and seething around them. But then, out of the silence, the scratching returned, sharper and frantic, clawing like a creature desperate to break in. The sound skittered and scratched, evolving into something more deliberate. It resonated off the walls, echoing the pulse of fear in her chest. "Mom, maybe we should call for help," Lucy whimpered. The phone sat abandoned in the kitchen, an illusion of safety. Kate bit back her frustration. With every second, the scratching grew louder, closer, and she was painfully aware that every second lost could be their last. "No! We need to get out," Kate replied, urgency flaring in her words. "We go out the back. We can get to the neighbors, we can ask for help there." They moved toward the back door, the oppressive darkness growing more suffocating, tall shadows looming like prison bars. Her hands trembled as she reached for the doorknob, each squeeze seeming to echo. She forced herself to breathe through the suffocating fear. What lay beyond the door? With a quick glance back, the children huddled in a tight embrace. The smell, that sickly, burning odor from before, wafted closer, mingling with something metallic. "Blood." "Don't look back," Kate said firmly, but truthfully she had to fight the urge herself. She flung the door open and they leapt into the cool night air. The backyard stretched before them, moonlight barely illuminating a path through the overgrown grass. The shadows seemed to throb with darkness, alive and waiting. They dashed across the yard, whispers of the shadows trailing behind, taunting them. But just as hope began to rise, a loud bang echoed from the house. The front door had burst open, splintering wood and bringing forth the gaping maw of fear. Mr. Granger appeared in the doorway, eyes glimmering, twisted enthusiasm cutting the silence. "Running will only make it worse," he cried, voice warped and raspy. The horrid chant slipped from his lips, a predator toying with its prey. She turned to the kids, blood rushing in their ears, eyes wide with terror. "Keep running," she urged, moving toward the fence, desperation pushing her feet faster than an instinctual response to the incoming horror. As they reached the fence, a guttural roar erupted behind them. The thing's clawing presence surged into the yard, pouring through the backyard like a tide of dread. "Mom!" Ben screamed, panic flooding the air as Kate scrambled to lift the latch, her breath escaping in frantic gasps. But the latch felt rusted, like time itself conspired against them. The growl grew louder, accompanied by a chorus of anguished wails that spiraled into chaos, sweeping through the night like a dark shroud. Kate felt her heart seize. She had to get them over the fence. She kicked the latch harder, desperation coursing through her veins. The fence started to give, rattling under the weight of terror. "Come on! I need you to climb!" Her voice rang out, a desperate call to arms. Suddenly, a shadow surged past her, its murky form twisting and warping, consumed by the night. Granger's face morphed into a hollow grin, the children's safety hanging in the balance. And there it was, what she had fearfully dreaded. Uncertainty was breeding something worse than death. At that moment, the fence erupted, crashing down under an unseen force, releasing chaos in every direction. Kate felt the ground shift, the energy around them crackling with unnatural suspense. The children, pinned between instinct and dread, hesitated as darkness enveloped them. "Mom!" Lucy cried again, and then everything shook. Granger's laughter thundered as the shadows collided, spiraling out of control, arms reaching what had awakened out there. What evil had they stirred? In that insufferable moment, she realized whatever horror had first plagued the night was now descending upon them like a storm, intent on consuming all. And then, as they braced for impact, something in the dark moved, and it was no mere shadow. The truth behind Mr. Granger's madness was ready to be revealed. And the scariest part? Knowing it wanted them more than anything. The ground quaked beneath their feet as the fence splintered, crashing to the earth like bones breaking under heavy weight. Kate's heart raced, a frenzied drumbeat echoing terror into her throat. She shoved Lucy and Ben forward, her instincts kicking into overdrive. "Run! Just run!" she screamed, feeling the suffocating presence closing in around them. Their feet pounded the ground, the air thick with the stench of decay and desperation. A sense of urgency clawed at her, a primal force pushing them forward, urging them to escape the grip of whatever evil was lurking. They sprinted toward the far side of the yard, the moonlight casting eerie shadows that darted and danced, taunting their every step. Each time Kate dared to glance back, the sights were worse than before. Granger stood, arms raised, relishing the chaos he had unleashed, his laughter echoing against the night as if the darkness itself shared in his delight. "Move, kids!" she yelled, lunging ahead with a surge of adrenaline. The heavy thud of something monstrous pursued them, its growls wrapping around their legs like chains, threatening to drag them into despair. The neighbors' homes stood still, their windows dark and uninviting, silent witnesses to their nightmare. "Mom, where do we go?" Ben panted, his small frame struggling to keep up. "Anywhere but here." "Keep moving." She felt the weight of their situation press down, but she refused to let it crush her resolve. There had to be safety somewhere, a refuge that could shield them from the madness. They neared the street. Their only hope lay a few yards ahead, where a flickering street lamp struggled against the encroaching darkness. But the shadows writhed, forming a semicircle behind them, closing like a trap. They were cornered, and it was only a matter of time before something lunged out. "Mom!" Lucy's voice trembled, glancing back with wide eyes. "It's coming!" She dared another look, and there it was, a hulking mass, more creature than man, with skin like rotting leather and wild hair trailing like tendrils of smoke. Its red eyes burned fiercely, pupils piercing the night as it fed off their fear. "Run! Don't stop!" Kate pushed herself and the kids toward the street lamp. Each stride felt heavy, the ground beneath them like molasses, struggling against their flight. Just ahead, the edge of the light called, promising a momentary shield against what was trailing in their wake. But the growl grew louder, accompanied by the sound of snapping branches, as if the darkness had unleashed a horde of nightmares. Then, the fibers of reality began to fray. The lamp flickered and dimmed, its light waning. "Mom, it's not going to hold," Ben whimpered, glancing up at her. His eyes were wide, brimming with fear. The hope that had glimmered faintly was extinguished. It was all fading. "Hold on!" Kate cried, her breath hitching in her throat. She felt a shift in the air, a cold, suffocating presence swirling around them, something ancient and hungry. Then, with a horde of shadows closing in, the darkness surged with a chilling roar, feral and thunderous. The ground beneath her feet trembled again, and the shadows seemed to pulse, inching closer with their ethereal tendrils, closing off her escape. As the street lamp flickered its last light, something unearthly reached out from the dark, elongating and twisting. The children clung tightly to her, their small bodies shaking. Just then, out from the shadows, she spotted a flicker of movement. Granger was no longer just standing. He was moving, a dark silhouette darting closer, hands clawed and eyes hungry. "Mom!" screamed Lucy, but in the next breath a wall of shadow enveloped them, cutting off the world behind. Kate's heart raced as her mind grappled with one terrifying thought: what if the real nightmare was just what they were escaping, but something worse ahead? And as the shadows closed, she realized running was no longer enough. It was time to face what lay beyond the light. But what awaited them? The shadows wrapped around them, dense and suffocating, cloaking the world in a darkness more absolute than night. Panic surged in Kate's chest as she clutched her children tighter. Their breath came fast, short gasps that mixed with the rancid air, heavy with the stench of damp earth and something else, something more grotesque that clawed at her senses. "Don't let go!" she choked out, forcing her feet to move, searching for a way through the oppressive dark. The ground felt alive beneath her, writhing and shifting, as if it too was a part of the monstrous entity pursuing them. Behind her, Granger's shadow moved with an inhuman grace, the laughter that had once haunted them now replaced by a guttural growl that reverberated through the cramped alley. Kate risked a glance back and felt her stomach churn. A wave of sickness rolled over her. Granger's eyes glinted like twin red beacons emerging from the void, and the corners of his mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. "Keep moving! We have to find a way out," she shouted, scrambling forward when the ground beneath them shifted suddenly. An unseen force tugged at her legs, like fingers reaching for them from a dark abyss. She stumbled, barely catching herself. "Mom!" Ben cried out. "What is happening?" The void pressed close, swallowing their desperate sounds, and Kate could feel the tendrils of darkness seeking them out, brushing against her skin with a cold touch that sent shivers racing down her spine. "Just hold on!" she yelled, her voice trembling with fear. Then, like a horizon of nightmares erupting, more shapes emerged from the shadows, figures distorted and unnatural, moving in jerky, unnatural motions. It was as if they were trapped in a grotesque puppet show, their limbs moving in sync with the chaos around them. The grip of despair dug its nails deep into Kate's resolve, but she fought against it. This was not how it ended. She refused to believe it. "We can't stop. Just a little farther." They found themselves at the edge of an old driveway, where the remnants of a crumbling house loomed, the former home of the neighbor who had vanished years ago. The windows, once bright and welcoming, were black voids now, gaping like mouths hungry for victims. "Mom, can we go there?" Lucy whimpered, pointing toward the house. "Maybe it's safe? Kate whispered, dread pooling in her gut. The legends of the abandoned place whispered in her ears stories of witchcraft, of things that should not be. But there was no time. Shadows were closing in. "Stay close." Kate pulled them toward the doorway, which hung ajar, creaking ominously, as if eager to swallow them whole. She stepped inside, her heart pounding, the darkness inside seeming to pulse with anticipation. The air was stale, thick like fog, wrapping around them as they crossed the threshold. Dust motes danced in the faint light that streamed through fractured windows, creating a surreal, almost dreamlike ambience. But that dream was a nightmare, and they could feel it lurking, waiting for them to let down their guard. "Mom, I'm scared." Ben's voice trembled, tiny and frail in the vastness of the abandoned space. "Me too," Kate admitted softly, breath catching in her throat. The shadows in the corners seemed to leer at them, whispering dark promises. There was no escape, only a choice to stand and fight. But a chill ran down her spine as a cold breeze swept through the room, sending a shiver through her bones. The shadows whispered now, rising to a fevered pitch, all-consuming, pulling at her mind. Then came a sound, low and thundering, the sound of heavy footsteps approaching from deep within the house, echoing like death's drum. "Mom!" Lucy gasped, grabbing Kate's arm tightly. The silence of their surroundings was shattered by a heavy, raspy voice. "Welcome to my home." As the figure emerged from the haze, distorted and menacing, Kate's heart leapt into her throat. They were not alone, and the true horror had just begun. What awaited them in the dark? The figure stepped fully into view, its form shifting like molten wax, grotesque and unrecognizable. Kate's heart raced as it loomed over them, a looming darkness that blocked out any remaining light in the room. Its breath came out in frosty whisks, each huff curling around her like a serpent. "Who are you?" she managed to utter, though her voice quivered like a fragile leaf. The children clung to her, wide-eyed and trembling, their small bodies fitting so perfectly in the curve of her own that she could hardly breathe. "Names are trivial in this realm," it rasped, its voice slithering around her like smoke. "But you've trespassed." Kate's stomach twisted with fear at the notion of being hunted, just as prey caught in a predator's gaze. This house felt alive. It seemed to pulse, to breathe with a will of its own. Shadows flickered across the walls, creating nightmarish shapes that mirrored the terror in her heart. "We didn't mean to," Ben whimpered, his innocence stark against the encroaching horror. "No one ever does," the creature hissed, inching closer, its elongated fingers reaching out with cruel enthusiasm. "But here, intention means nothing. Only the darkness remains." Kate stepped back instinctively, but there was nowhere to go. The walls pressed in on her, whispering malevolence. "We just want to leave," she pleaded, desperation bubbling beneath her surface. "Leave?" The figure's mouth twisted into something that could almost be a smile. You'll not leave, not until the house has taken what it needs. What does it need? She asked, pushing down panic and frustration, gripping her children tighter. What do you want from us? Hope, despair, suffering, the words trailed out, each more malignant than the last, reverberating off the walls and shaking the fragile remnants of Kate's courage. As the children shivered by her side, she felt a rush of determination, fighting against the dread threatening to drown her. No! You won't take our hope! Her voice rang out, a challenge against the darkness that engulfed them. The figure recoiled slightly, an eerie laugh escaping its lips, echoing around the room, taunting her resolve. You think you can resist? Hope lies in believing you can fight against the inevitable. The ground trembled beneath them, as if the house itself wanted to join the conversation, writhing in approval. Broken floorboards creaked ominously, and shadows flared, the anguished echoes of past victims scratching at the edges of her mind. Mom! Lucy cried, eyes wide with terror as the air thickened, an ominous weight pressing against them. With instinct driving her, Kate grabbed each of her children's hands. Run! She shouted, pushing past the grotesque figure, feeling a surge of adrenaline ignite her movements. They surged forward into the dim hallway, shadows stretching like dark fingers grasping at their heels. But the creature was quick, trailing them, its laughter echoing as the house started to change around them. The walls shifted, closed in, every turn feeling wrong and disorienting. Down the hallway! Kate urged, desperately leading the way as the darkness throbbed around them, curling in on itself. Just as hope sparkled faintly in the distance, the ground shook violently. A door loomed ahead, flickering with hints of light as the creature's laughter melded with anguished cries, echoes of souls long lost. Keep moving! We're almost there. But the door was not an escape, it was a portal to something worse. The threshold whispered promises of safety, twisted in a way that sent fear prickling down her spine. As they reached the door, it burst open with a roar, darkness spilling out like a tidal wave. In that moment, Kate's pulse raced, realization hitting her like a punch. What if the door wasn't an escape but a prison? And as the wave of darkness crashed around them, thoughts of hope faded into the void. Would they be consumed? In the grip of terror, Kate turned to see the towering figure approach, relishing the chaos with monstrous glee. Was it too late to turn back? Would they be another story swallowed by the house? As the shadows enveloped them once again, the chilling question remained, what would they become? The darkness swallowed them whole, and for a brief moment, Kate felt weightless. An infinite void wrapped around them, pulling at her consciousness, whispering loud secrets that clawed their way into her mind. She gripped her children tighter, her heart hammering like a war drum in her chest. As the darkness receded, the sensation of being pulled apart morphed into a solid coldness, and they landed in a room unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls were lined with peeling wallpaper, colors fading into an unnatural gray. There were no windows, just the oppressive gloom that settled like a shroud. Are we alive? Ben's voice trembled, small and frightened. We must be, Lucy stated, her usually confident tone replaced by uncertainty as she clung to Kate's side. Before Kate could respond, the air thickened around them, dense and suffocating. Faint echoes of distant cries filled the space, each one sending chills skittering down her spine. They were echoes of despair, frayed remnants of those who had come before. Kate shuddered, glancing around the suffocating room, searching for anything that resembled an exit. Stay close, she urged, her voice low yet fierce. She knew they needed to escape this nightmare, but something deep inside told her the worst was far from over. Suddenly, movement stirred in the corner of the room. A dark mass shifted as if someone was awakening from a long slumber. Kate's breath itched in her throat, and she instinctively shielded her children with her body, ready to face whatever horror came next. As the shadow coalesced into a shape, Kate's heart sank with the realization that it was another figure, a wretched reflection of the creature they had just escaped. This one appeared to be shackled, almost as if it was bound to the very ground. It lifted its head slowly, revealing hollow eyes that swirled with darkness. "Help me," it rasped, voice cracked and haunting. "I am trapped like you. Don't listen." Kate hissed protectively. She could feel the urgency radiating from the figure, its despair palpable, but something about it felt off, like a trap waiting to ensnare them further. Let me free! I can help you! The house, it can be destroyed! The figure wailed, fingers clawing at the ground as if it sought a way out. Lucy looked up at Kate, her trusting eyes now wide and fearful. Mom, what if it's telling the truth? What if it knows how to escape? Kate felt a surge of panic. We can't trust it. This place is full of lies. She glanced back at the figure, who now seemed to writhe in pain, its hollow eyes growing more frantic. Your hope is your weakness. It can consume you. It shrieked, the sound sending a fresh wave of horror crashing over Kate. A low rumble shook the room, and the walls pulsated as if the house itself was reacting to the figure's rising torment. Shadows flickered dangerously close, reaching for the children. Kate had to act fast. Run now! She shouted. They sprinted away from the grotesque figure, choosing a direction at random as the room twisted around them, corridors that defied logic opening and closing at will. As they raced through the hallways, Kate felt the darkness aspecting a life of its own, taunting them. Every glance over her shoulder revealed that figure, now looming in a new passageway, the shadows twisting and folding around it as if it were connected to the house itself. Mom! What do we do? Ben cried, desperation evident in his tiny voice. A dark laugh echoed from within the walls. There is no escape. Only despair. Just then, a door slammed shut behind them, and the sound reverberated like a gunshot, freezing them in place. They turned slowly, dread pooling in Kate's stomach as the relentless darkness followed their every breath. Look! Lucy pointed ahead. A narrow beam of light flickered in the distance, but with it came a muffled, rhythmic thudding, almost like a heartbeat, pulsing with an unnatural life of its own. Whatever happens, we keep moving, Kate ordered, steeling herself. No matter the cost. As they approached the light, the thudding grew louder, echoing a promise or perhaps a threat. Would it lead them to safety or seal their fate forever? The tension cracked like a taut wire, and as they reached the threshold of the light, a new figure stepped into view, grinning with impossible glee. What will you choose? The question floated in the air, impossibly inviting yet drenched in malice. And with every ounce of courage she had left, Kate realized they were players in a dangerous game, one where every choice could cost them dearly. Where would this lead them next? The figure stood just beyond the light, its grin stretching wide, revealing teeth that gleamed unnaturally in the dimness. What will you choose? It repeated, the words dripping with a mixture of delight and menace. Kate felt a chill crawl up her spine as dread coiled tightly around her heart. Mom, I don't like it. Ben whimpered, squeezing Kate's hand as if it were a life raft. Lucy glanced at her mother, eyes pleading for reassurance. We don't have to choose anything, Kate murmured, inching backward despite her resolve. Staying here meant they'd be prey to whatever this twisted nightmare could conjure, but approaching the figure felt like walking into a death trap. Fear binds you, but hope will set you free. The figure's voice reverberated, each syllable mocking their situation. Choose wisely, and I may grant you freedom. Choose foolishly, and well, let us just say, you shall join the others. From the shadows, a cacophony of muted screams echoed. Kate's chest constricted as she imagined countless souls trapped in this horror. She remembered the figure from earlier, its agonized wails, and felt the weight of their grief pressing against her. A surge of determination bubbled within her. They had to escape. Ignore it! She hissed, turning sharply away. We need to keep moving! But the floor beneath them began to tremble, shaking like the ground beneath a thunderstorm. The walls closed in, pressing against them. The erratic light flickered, threatening to go out altogether. You can't escape your fate. The figure taunted. Your anguish will be my delight. They stumbled back, breathless, each step a struggle against the relentless force of despair. Behind them, they could feel the darkness boiling, rising, almost as if drawn into a frenzy by their fear. It writhed like a living thing, eager to ensnare them again. Mom! Ben cried, a note of panic edging into his words. I can't breathe. Kate tried to focus on her children, feeling their small forms trembling beside her. Just hold on tight. We won't let go. She shouted, forcing herself to move ahead, leading them through a narrow passage that opened just in time. As they slipped through, the loud thud echoed behind them, the laughter of that figure piercing the air like a knife. It reverberated in her skull, a reminder that something was close pursuing them, savoring their fear. The corridor twisted ahead, dark and foreboding. The rhythmic thudding intensified, syncing with their racing hearts. It was a syncopated beat, thick with pulsating dread. Each step pulled them deeper into this house of horrors. Finally, they entered a small chamber bathed in murky light. Wisps of mist curled around their feet. In the center stood a twisted altar, ancient markings spiraling up its sides like crawling vines. A feeling of terrible history pressed upon them, warnings echoing inside Kate's mind. Don't touch anything, she warned, feeling disoriented by the oppressive atmosphere. Yet the altar called to her, seemingly alive, resonating beneath her gaze. But as she stepped closer, whispers filtered through the air, coiling around their minds. Secrets, promises, treachery all flowed like murky water around them. Join us. Become a part of the night. No, no! She gasped, shaking her head violently. She turned back to her children, desperate for clarity. We have to leave! As she pulled them once more into the darkness, she felt the weight of choice pressing on her. This house, these figures, they thrived on desperation, feeding on uncertainty. She had to choose a path. But which one would lead to safety, and which would doom them forever? A soft, familiar lullaby began to echo through the halls, soothing yet unsettling. It seeped into her bones, whispering memories of her childhood and lost innocence. Mom, I don't like this song. Ben's voice quivered, breaking through Kate's reverie. I don't either, Bud. But we need to keep moving, she replied, her grip tightening on their hands as she propelled them deeper into the dark. With each step, the air thickened, hot and suffocating. They needed to make a choice soon. The cycle of nightmare would not relent. Ahead, a bright new door emerged, shimmering with an ethereal glow. But something deep within warned her the brighter it shone, the more dangerous it could be. Kate? Lucy whimpered. What if it's a trap? They stood before that threshold, frozen in time, confronted not only with the choice of passage but with the very core of their fears. As the lullaby crescendoed, Kate felt the ground begin to shift beneath her. Would they dare step through the glowing door and face the unknown, or risk the darkness that was snatching at their feet, demanding to consume them whole? The tension crackled dangerously as they stood on the precipice of decision. What would they embrace, the light that shimmered like hope, or the shadows that whispered promises of despair? Whatever they chose, something intangible was waiting hungry. What lay beyond the door remained a mystery, but one thing was clear: they had to act, and quickly, before the darkness swallowed them whole once more. Kate's heart raced as she stared at the shimmering door. It beckoned with a soft glow, almost like a warm promise, yet the shadows writhed closer, clawing at her ankles. We need to choose now, she urged, her voice a frantic whisper. Mom, what if Ben started, his eyes wide with fear? No what ifs! Kate snapped, cutting him off as a chill pulled in the pit of her stomach. They couldn't afford to hesitate. We choose together. On the count of 3. Lucy clutched Ben's hand tighter, glancing nervously between her mother and the door. The lullaby wrapped around them, sweet and sinister, making their skin crawl. 1, 2, her pulse thundered, drowning out everything else, but she pushed on. 3. Without waiting for a moment's hesitation or a change in her children's resolve, she lunged toward the door, pulling them with her. As they crossed the threshold, the world around them melted away. They stumbled into a world devoid of color. A parquet floor stretched infinitely, with cracked walls that whispered forgotten memories. Above them, a vast expanse of darkness opened up, filled with swirling clouds that seemed to shimmer with distant constellations. But the light had vanished. What have we done? Lucy gasped, her voice echoing in the unease. Shadows danced in the corners, hungry and malicious. A low rumble grew around them, reverberating like a warning. You dared to seek the light, an ethereal figure materialized from the void, its features indistinct yet terrifying. And you found the realm of lost souls. The whispers grew louder, now mocking, taunting them. Dodging memories of their own fears, Kate squeezed her children's hands tighter, bracing against the palpable dread. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice betraying a flicker of uncertainty. "Your choice binds you forever," it replied, the voice slithering through the darkness. "Embrace your fate. Will you join us? Or will you atone for your weaknesses?" Kate's stomach spun. "We'll never join you!" she yelled defiantly, though her heart thudded against her chest. The figure's laughter echoed harshly, a sound that sent icy tendrils of terror streaking down her spine. The chamber grew more oppressive, shadows reaching like grasping hands. The walls began to close in around them, and the floor vibrated, pulsating with raw fear. She could feel the children's fear mixing with her own, a cocktail of despair. Ahead, beyond the shadowy figure, a new path emerged. Flickering flame-like lights beckoned, drawing her gaze. Was it another trap, or was it a lifeline? "We need to run!" Kate shouted, already pulling the kids along a narrow path that split from the dark figure's reach. They raced ahead, but not without hearing the caustic laughter trailing behind them. The lights danced around them, vibrant and inviting, yet a twisted darkness lingered just below the surface. "We can't stop. Don't look back," Kate urged, adrenaline pushing her forward. They reached a new chamber, vibrant colors and warm light flooding over them. It was a stark contrast to the shadows they had fled, but something felt off. Awkward whispers brushed against her ears, a half-formed language that seemed to curl in irritation at their presence. "Mom?" Lucy clutched Kate's shirt, her voice trembling. "What if we shouldn't be here?" Kate looked around, uncertainty flooding her senses. The air crackled with energy, thick with an ominous feeling. She had no idea what awaited them. The oppressive pall from before had dissipated, but what if this place was a facade? A sense of impending doom clenched around them like a vice. "We have to keep moving, there must be a way out," she declared, though she wasn't sure of anything anymore. As they ventured deeper, shadows twirled tantalizingly close, stretching toward them, inviting but threatening. "Join us," the echoed whispers sang again, luring them with promises of freedom, fogging the line between safety and peril. The ground shifted beneath their feet. Each impression felt heavy with foreboding. Their murmurs melded together like creatures itching to escape a tomb. A dull thud throbbed through the chamber. The lights flickered violently, casting frantic shadows that danced around them. Then it hit her a realization as chilling as the darkest corners of the house. They were not alone. An unseen force loomed, hungry for their fear and longing to grasp their very essence. The moment hung heavy between them, the lights dimming. Would they manage to escape this perilous influence, or would they be consumed by it, as countless before them had been? In that breathless heartbeat of silence, a hidden door cracked open on the opposite wall. A voice whispered from within, a deeper darkness calling them by name. The question loomed larger than fear itself. Would they dare answer the call of the unknown once more? The darkness swirled around them in a chaotic dance, thick and alive. "We have to go now," Kate shouted, her heart pounding like thunder. Shadows twitched, almost as if they were waiting, coaxing her family to come closer, to join their realm. Ben tugged at her shirt, panic radiating from his small body. "What if it's a trap, Mom?" His voice trembled, echoing the fear that gnawed at Kate's resolve. "I know, but we can't stay here. We can't let it win," she said firmly, voice steady despite the tremor in her insides. She pulled her children closer, their tiny hands fitting perfectly into hers, anchoring her courage. They darted toward the crack in the wall, fueled by raw instinct. Each step was a battle against the grasping shadows, their chilling whispers penetrating Kate's mind, sowing seeds of doubt. "Join us, surrender despair," they hissed, enticing but repulsive. "Don't listen. Stay strong," Kate urged, her voice a fierce battle cry in the oppressive gloom. As they approached the entrance, the dim light beyond beckoned like a distant star, promising hope in the suffocating hold of darkness. With one last desperate push, they slipped through the crack and tumbled into an expansive open space. But what met them was a surreal landscape, a twisted realm caught between light and shadow. The sky flickered with patches of shimmering light, while the ground churned beneath their feet, a morass of murky fog that threatened to swallow them whole. "Where are we?" Lucy looked around, wide-eyed, the innocence in her gaze tempered by the foreboding energy of the place. "This feels wrong," Ben murmured, inching closer to Kate. "It's okay," she reassured, steeling her resolve. "We've come this far, we can't give up now." Ahead, a figure emerged, a shimmering light set apart from the chaos around it. As it drew closer, Kate squinted, feeling an almost magnetic pull towards it. It bore an ethereal glow, beckoning like a lighthouse in the storm. "Are you here to help us?" Kate called out, hope mingling with fear. The figure paused, the light shimmering softly. "I am a guardian of this space," it said, its voice melodious yet distant. "But you must face what you've awakened before I can guide you." "Awakened?" Kate repeated, a gnawing realization slipping through her. "You mean, Mr. Granger, we've brought this on ourselves?" "Yes," the guardian nodded, a flicker of sadness flashing across its visage. "The darkness thrives on your fear, your anguish. It grows stronger each time you allow despair to take hold." Kate felt the weight of those words, each one a dagger to her heart. But she couldn't falter now, her children counted on her. "Then how do we end this?" she asked, desperation rising. "You must confront the shadows, the creature that calls to you. Only by embracing your fear can you banish it." The air shifted, shadows writhed, circling like wolves hungry for prey. "Confront it?" Ben echoed, eyes wide with panic. "But what if it gets us first?" "Mom!" Lucy grabbed her arm, gut-wrenching fear lacing her voice. Kate's heart ached. These horrifying moments wouldn't define them, she had to shield them from this evil. "We can do this together," she said, steeling her voice. "No one's getting taken. Not while I'm here." The guardian pointed towards the depths of the swirling fog ahead, where darkness coalesced into a familiar form, a twisted version of Mr. Granger, grinning maliciously as if he'd been expecting them all along. "Face him," the guardian urged. "Face your fears." Kate nodded, pulling the children close. Together they moved toward the looming figure, its illusion of humanity fading under the light's watchful gaze. "Mom, I can't!" Lucy squeaked, tugging at Kate's shoulder. Kate crouched down, meeting her children's frightened eyes. "We have to stand together, no matter how scary it gets. Remember, we're stronger as one." She offered a determined smile. As they neared Granger's grotesque form, the shadows erupted, rushing toward them, but there was no retreat now. Clenching her fists, Kate shouted, "We are not afraid of you. You don't own us." In that moment, something shifted in the air. The darkness recoiled, the sinister laughter fading like a distant memory. It seemed to lose its hold, flickering like a faulty light. "Your fear has kept me alive," Granger hissed, face shifting into something monstrous. "Embrace your despair." But Kate felt the grip of determination harden within her. "No! You thrive on our fear, but we're taking it back." With a rush of fierce instinct, she called on every ounce of love, every precious memory of laughter shared, every scream of joy. "You wouldn't take us!" she yelled, and pushed forward. "We're breaking free." A blinding light enveloped them, bright and warm, pushing against the cold grip of shadows. Granger's form distorted, twisting in defiance as the radiant energy surged, engulfing him entirely. "No!" the creature shrieked, echoing into the realm, filled with rage and disbelief. And in that searing moment of truth, the darkness shattered, fracturing like glass scattered on a wind. The world around them exploded into bright colors as they stepped fully into the light, emerging from the depths of despair, breathless and battered but alive. The guardian smiled, a shimmering figure against the glow. "You chose hope, and hope will always guide you through the darkness." They stood together, the weight of fear lifted, hearts soaring with newfound courage. "Let us go home," Kate whispered, wrapping her arms around Ben and Lucy, feeling their small bodies lean into her, a sense of unity, and safety filling the space. Yeah, home, Ben echoed, his smile shining through the remnants of fear. And as they took their first steps forward, together, into the realm of light, Kate knew they could face anything that lay ahead. The shadows were behind them, and hope was ahead. A light-hearted breeze brushed their faces, and they stepped onto the familiar ground of their neighborhood, the sun rising, washing the world in hopeful hues of orange and gold, birds singing, and life resuming its rhythm. "Mom, can we go to the park?" Lucy asked, eyes sparkling with the joy of being alive. Kate chuckled, her heart swelling as she nodded. "Of course, let us go. It's a beautiful day." As they walked side by side, the shadows of the past melted away, leaving only warmth and love to fill the space ahead. There were no more whispers, only laughter as the bond between them strengthened, forever unyielding against the night. And just like that, the darkness was finally, undeniably, behind them. But remember, fear can return. Stay vigilant. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep experiencing moments like these, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the exclusive stories waiting just for you on this channel. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about tonight's ending, let us know what you think. And most importantly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your support makes a huge difference, and only true fans understand the importance of standing by the channel in this way.